So the first piece of DBT that we're going to talk about is mindfulness. It's also known as wise mind. This piece is probably the most basic piece of DBT, but it's the most important. It seems relatively easy, or it seems relatively quick. There's not a lot of bullet points in this one, but this is probably the hardest skill to put into practice and to use, because we actually have to do something with it. It's not just recognizing what it is, it's actually being able to take that step further. We have our emotional mind that kind of sits over here and gives us all of the feelings that we feel, and all of the strong pieces of that emotion is over here. Then we have our rational mind, or a reasonable mind, where maybe we recognize, okay, constraints, money constraints, time constraints, things like that. We're more practical here. And sometimes those two sides can be completely different. But we can be dealing with a situation that we really want to do something, but maybe the reasonable mind or the rational mind over here is saying, oh, you can't do all of that. But your emotional mind is going, nope, I've got to do that. It happens in decisions that we make, family vacations, and it doesn't just have to be negative things. It can be positive things too. It can be things like planning family vacations, or going out to dinner, doing something like that. But it can also be in times of conflict. We can be angry at a situation, and we can be angry here because of property damage, or because of just the disruption that it causes, just that emotional piece that comes up. Can be going over here, and we can sit here and we can have our reasonable mind or our rational mind that's thinking, okay, so it's just a wall, or it's just a car, it's just the person is okay, or will be okay, or can be okay. There's a piece of that we're able to take that emotion away. So wise mind, what we're doing is we're learning how to blend those two, and we're learning how to bring that emotional piece and the rational piece together to that wise mind, and to be able to have a good understanding of it. We've got two different types of skills when we talk about wise mind. The first set is what skills. We're going to observe, we're going to describe, and then we're going to participate. And then our how skills. How do we do those things? We do them non-judgmentally, mindfully, and effectively. So we're going to talk about all of those and what that actually breaks down to. So as we talk about core mindfulness skills and the what skills, the first piece of that is observe. We're going to just sit with how we feel. We're just going to recognize it. We're going to notice. We're not going to try to make the feelings stronger. We don't try to make them go away. We don't try to make them last longer or shorter. We just notice. We just sit with it. We're going to see how long it lasts. Maybe it changes. Maybe the intensity changes in this feeling. We're going to notice how those feelings feel in our body. When I have this emotion, am I feeling my face get flushed? Am I feeling my stomach in knots? Do I get a headache? Am I feeling tense? Where in my body am I feeling these emotions? Sometimes when we have these intense emotions, different senses act up and become very powerful, or maybe they don't. Maybe we smell different things. Maybe we're more apt to smelling things. Maybe our sense of smell is stronger. Maybe our sense of taste is stronger. Or maybe when we get angry, maybe we can't hear those things around us like we can other times. So maybe we're noticing those senses. We're noticing what's happening to us. We're observing. That's all we're doing, is observing. We're not doing anything about it. We're just recognizing it. The last piece of this is becoming like a non-stick pan, sometimes I hate those because eggs still stick to the non-stick pans, but we're looking at how to do that and how to recognize that emotions come and they go, okay? And we're just gonna let things go. We're just going to recognize it, and not just because we have an emotion doesn't mean we have to do something about it. We're just going to recognize that. The second piece to the what skills is to describe. We're going to use words to describe our feelings. When we use those words, we're going to make sure that we're using fact words, that we're calling a thought just a thought. If you're thinking a certain way, we're not saying that that thought is reality. We're calling it a thought. We're calling this feeling just a feeling. We're recognizing that I am feeling angry right now. That doesn't mean that I am angry or I am this way. We're recognizing that this is a feeling that I'm having. And we're just going to describe that. We're going to describe, and we're going to use words that everyone can agree with. Sometimes when we try to explain things or when we go through things, we put our own spin on it, and we put our own, like we're the only ones that have felt that way. But we want to make sure that we're using basic information and basic words, basic vocabulary and feelings so that it's universal, so that we can take that, because sometimes when we add stuff to it, we're putting more into it. We're not just observing, we're actually adding to it. We're intensifying the situation. So we just want to be able to recognize my fists feel tense, my shoulders feel tense, my stomach feels grumbly or maybe upset. We're not trying to paint a colorful picture of the situation or magnifying the situation in any way. We want to avoid using emotional words. We're already feeling a certain way, so now we're just describing it. We're not adding to it. The last piece of this describing piece is letting go of the thought that emotions have to be right or wrong when we're searching for different words to describe it. It can just be what it is. And it is what it is. And that's what we're learning how to do. We're learning how to deal with this emotion as it comes up. The last what skill is to participate. It's to get yourself lost in an activity. Understanding that once I've observed my feelings and I recognize how I'm feeling and I can describe how I'm feeling and I've not added to it and I've just sat with it and I'm okay with where I'm at right now. I might not like it, but I'm okay. That's the DBT piece of this. I might not like it, but I can deal with it. I know I can. Then we're going to participate in an activity. We tell students to participate in PE or in group or whatever, instead of just sitting in this feeling, because sometimes when we sit in it, it builds and we keep going these places that we don't want to go. But we're able to get lost in an activity. Maybe it might be making dinner. It might be cleaning your bathroom. It might be doing something around the house or going out and running or going to the gym and working out. There might be different ways that you can participate in an activity. You get yourself and you're able to let yourself go and you're able to be natural in that situation and you're participating. You want to practice these skills until they become habit, until they're normal and they're comfortable for you. So a lot of times when you're first learning how to observe, it's difficult because we want to add all these things to it. And so we just maybe write things down or maybe talk through it with somebody else. Same thing with describing. Once we get in the habit of doing that, it becomes much easier and natural. The second piece of mindfulness are the how skills. These ones are a little bit sometimes harder to understand or to get to, but still important. The first one is non-judgmental. What we're doing is we're not judging a situation. We're recognizing that we have these emotions, but again, we're looking at just the facts, and we're not judging the situation. We're not saying that we are right or wrong, or that they are right or wrong, good or bad, or that they should be doing something different or should not. We are just seeing what's happening. We're taking that step back and we're just seeing what's happening. We're ungluing our opinions. When we have facts, sometimes we have these opinions that are built towards them. Just like when we have these feelings, sometimes we have actions that are already built into these feelings that we have. And so we're separating those. We're understanding that there can be this feeling of anger without triggering a thought process along with it. It can just be this. We want to accept each moment. Each event is a blanket, spread out the lawn. We want to accept both the rain and the sun. We want to be able to accept the situation. And again, this is all under non-judgmentally. So we're wanting to take that step back, and where we would put our shoulds, coulds, woulds, need tos into it, we want to take a step back and not do that. We just want to be able to sit with it. We want to acknowledge what's helpful. We want to acknowledge what's harmful. When we find ourselves judging, because it's very easy to do, don't get mad at yourself for judging. Just take a step back and say, okay, wait a second. Let me look at this situation differently. How can I take a step back and look at this differently? Don't judge yourself for judging. The second piece is one mindfully. This ties kind of into the participate that we talked about under the what skills. We're going to make sure that we're doing one thing at a time and we're focusing on that one thing. Sometimes when we try to multitask and we try to get too many things done, each one of those activities that we're trying to do brings along with it its own emotions and its own different set of issues. And so we want to make sure that we're not giving ourselves more emotions than what we can handle. So maybe we need to not just try to multitask. We're just going to focus on one thing right now. And we're going to put our effort and energy into that one thing. We're going to make sure that we're putting all of our attention into that one thing. We're not going to break off part of our brain and try to problem solve over here. We're just going to throw ourselves into one thing. The last piece of this is effectively. Now this is what works. You want to do what works. If you recognize that doing laundry was one of those things that causes some more anxiety in you, then maybe laundry is not the thing to do when you're already dealing with an emotion. You need to do something that you enjoy. Maybe that's when you go out and you go running, or maybe cooking dinner or baking or doing something different, but you want to do something that works. I tell kids all the time when they talk about skills, like when they get angry, well, I count to 10. Well, that doesn't help. Well, then stop counting to 10. Find a new thing that works. Don't keep doing what doesn't work, because that creates emotion. That creates more of that emotion. We want to be able to let go of the harmful pieces of it, of whatever that emotion is. Sometimes when we get angry, we want to retaliate. We want to get back. We want to show everybody else how angry we are. But being able to recognize that that's not helpful and just let it go. And that's difficult. But that's what these skills are for. So the piece of mindfulness, the wise mind piece, is learning how to take that emotional mind and that rational mind and bringing them together into this wise mind piece. And we do that by observing, describing, participating, and we do that non-judgmentally, one mindfully, and effectively.